It is time for me to rank my Glaminatrix Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes. I don't think I've done a palette ranking with their palettes yet, so it's definitely very much overdue. I have 17 palettes here. They are not all the palettes I've ever had from them. There is one more called Beaute, which you might have seen in my nostalgia video, and I did receive palette in PR, and they will be marked as so in the upper right hand corner. I have an affiliate code with Glaminatrix Cosmetics, which I'll put up on the screen. These palettes are older and some of these have been discontinued and are no longer available. I do also have a video of swatches of all of these single eyeshadows I have from them, which I would say is probably 70% of the singles that they have available, but I'm just kind of throwing that number out there. So let's get right into it. So in 17th place is the Sugar and Spice palette. The main reason being is I just wasn't the biggest fan of this color story. I think the shimmers are really beautiful, but I wasn't the biggest fan of these two light mattes in here. And then also this very cooler tone, mid-tone that almost kind of looks like it has just a slight hint of green in it, with a warm brown and then 3 pastels. But I do think this color story has potential with just some tweaks, but the shimmers were absolutely stunning. And I will be inserting some swatches of some of the newer palettes, especially because I have been actually keeping those swatches, so I will insert those. So I'm just going to do a couple of swatches of a couple of the shimmers. They were really, really beautiful, very soft. So Vanilla, Fennel, Nutmeg was super sparkly, really beautiful kind of shade. And then Star Anise was more of a standard black base kind of shimmer, and they're just really nice and very smooth. So I do really like the shimmers in here, but again, the assortment of them in here, not my absolute favorite with the color story. And in 16th place is the Rich Romantic palette. This one kind of similar reason. I do like this color story much more than the previous one, but I do feel like they've done much better color stories since then. And again, the shimmers in here, absolutely beautiful. They did have like a satin in here as well, and some like ultra sparkly shades such as Rich, Captivating. I mean, these are ultra sparkly and charming, really beautiful. And again, on the drier side, so super hooded eye friendly. So I did really love the shimmers in here, and this one is very shifty especially. So like 10 out of 10 on the shimmers. I do think Timeless and Passion just feel like they kind of stick out of this color story a little bit. They don't really quite fit in. They do have a warmer tone, with Timeless being almost a little bit mustardy. So it is quite a bit of a different color story. I think maybe if it was just like this, I think then it's much more of a cohesive color story that I can see myself just coming out with a lot of different looks. In 15th place is the Glamorous palette, and this one did launch between the Rich Romantic and the Sugar and Spice, and this one has the larger pans, and this is their older formulation of both mattes and shimmers, I believe. Much more of a colorful color story. I think there's some really beautiful pops in here, and the shimmers are definitely very beautiful, and even though they are quite a bit old, they are still so stunning and then dreamy. I mean, look at these. I'm gonna just swatch them next to these. Definitely more on the opaque side with the exception of this one. But I mean, they are really pretty. In comparison to some of the shimmers that are in the other two palettes I just talked about, these do have like a little bit more of a thicker texture to them that you can really mostly only feel when you're swatching them with a finger. And I do think their new formula is ultra sparkly, even more sparkly than some of these, which these are already quite sparkly and really beautiful. So I do really like this color story, but again, some other color stories I just like more. That being said, I would love to see this one come back as like maybe a revamped version with the new shimmers. And then in 14th place, I think I'm at 14, this is the Elevated Eye. So this is a 6-pan color story, and it is monochromatic. These shimmers are so exquisite, really beautiful. I think there's a nice balance here of the dark, mid, and light tone mattes to really help build out a full look. And then Elevated is just the most ultra sparkly. I mean, all of these are just so beautiful. I love this formula. I mean, look at that. It just keeps going and going. I definitely think their shimmers have been just on another level. And so this is really mostly ranking lower because while I love the quality of this, it is a monochromatic palette. In 13th place is also an older palette with larger pans. This is Into the Night. Really like this color story. It actually, now looking at it, reminds me a little bit of the newer Crown Legacy palette in terms of it has some grungier tones. I don't necessarily have the biggest reason for why this is at the place it is besides the color story, that I just prefer some of the other color stories a little bit more. I see myself reaching for some of the color stories more that are higher up on this list, but there's nothing wrong with this quality. I do really enjoy this quality. Some beautiful shimmers as well. I mean, After Dark looks just absolutely exquisite. It is just like molten silver. So beautiful. And then this one's like a sheer shade. So like shimmers, again, 10 out of 10. They do have the older formula, which is still stunning. And these just still hold up. I really, really enjoy these. I remember how excited I was about this one in the Glamorous palette when they first launched. It was just a different time in the indie space. And then in 13th place is the Nearly Natural palette. This is the original version. There is a newer version that is higher up, mostly because I do just prefer the curation of that one a little bit more. But again, that being said, if you have this palette already, definitely don't think you need or should get the newer version of this one. The shimmers in here are still absolutely beautiful. The mattes are still really beautiful quality. I love me a peachy shade like this one. Nearly Natural, I mean, it is just so ultra sparkly. These are so sparkly and beautiful. This one I feel like I can feel like the larger particle size a little bit. And then this one's like more opaque, beautiful bronzy shade. Again, stunning, stunning shimmers. Glaminatrix definitely knows what they're doing when it comes to their shimmers, and their mattes also have been really great. I still think it's a great palette, but I do prefer the sparkly, ethereal pieceiness of their newer shimmers. Next one, we have Exquisite Eyes. I believe this one is no longer available as well, which is really too bad because I did enjoy these little 6 pans. I felt like they were overall just very well curated. I was hoping for them to come out with a cooler tone browns version. Unfortunately, Exquisite is extremely fragile, as you can see, so this one keeps breaking on me every time I open the palette, but it is just, I mean, the next level of sparkly. And then we have some more smoother shades that still have quite a bit of sparkle and shine to them, but they're just like a different mica size. So I'm just gonna grab a little bit of Exquisite, but you can get this one to be super, super ethereal. And I really love the tones in here. It's definitely very silvery, super ultra sparkly. I really love Green Eyeshadow. I think Green Eyeshadow to me is more of like a neutral because a lot of things in nature are green, which in that case, I mean, blue is neutral too because it's found in nature, like in the sky, you know? So, but I've always really loved green eyeshadow, especially with my hazel eyes. So that's why this one is higher up, and it does have the newer formulation. And then after that, we have Entrancing Eyes, which this one is the pinky version of the 6 pans. Again, beautiful shimmers, absolutely beautiful shimmers. Bewitch especially, like this is just so stunning. It's like a peach with a bunch of flecks throughout it. It is so special, so beautiful. I really like this little curation as well. I think it's super user-friendly. And then right after that, we have another one of these 6 pans. This is the Elegant Eyes. This one is just a really beautiful, warm-toned, neutral palette. Love elegant, cultivated, sumptuous. I mean, these are all stunning, and I love that there's a variety of depth with these. So you have your really, really sheer topper shade. You have one that's slightly more opaque, but can be a little bit sheared out. You would have to use the tiniest bit though. And then this one has that darker base to it. So you have just like a really well curated color story in this little 6 pan for super easy everyday looks that have quite a bit of sparkle. I lost count, but next we have Pretty and Pastels, and I just really love the way that this pastel palette is curated. This one next to the Blend Bunny Sickly Sweet is my top most favorite pastel palettes. I feel like between those two, I'm really all set with all the pastels I could possibly ever want. And I think it's really because I just love that there is a deepening up shade down here with a variety. So it's not just colorful pastels and some more vibrant pastels. You have a little bit of like nuance here. And then also I love the shimmers in here. I love that there's some more sheer shades as well as some slightly more opaque shades, but for the most part, they're just really great variety to pair. Like you can just really tell this was super thought out. So I really appreciate that about this palette. And again, shimmers are so beautiful. This one, magical. I feel like these are maybe just, actually this one's really sparkly. I feel like this one has a little bit of a thicker, they really just pack a punch. I'm just gonna swatch them this way so I leave some room. We have quite a bit more palettes to get through. Next up we have the Nocturnal palette, and this one is an older palette. As you can see, larger pans, has a different kind of packaging, like a foam here with the attached fall leather cover. I love this color story. This is one of my most favorite color stories they've ever released. But it does remind me a little bit of the Kaleidos something punk palette, flower punk palette a little bit. It's got some grunginess with some pastel shades, which I love. I just love a periwinkle with like a really bright neon grungy green, lime green, and then a yellow that is leaning a little bit mustard, and then like a darker mustard. I just feel like this color story is so beautiful. So many looks, definitely very, very inspiring. I think there's also a nice variety of the shimmers. I do think that maybe I would have curated the shimmers a little bit differently, just personally, just purely based on my personal taste. But let's swatch. Milky Way is super, super beautiful and PC, and then Night Vision, and then Constellation. I do feel like I can tell these shimmers are just like a little bit less special, but the color story overall is so amazing. That being said, I feel like Milky Way is actually the closest to their newest formula because it is just so PC. I mean, look at that sparkle. So magical. I would also love to see them come out with this color story like with their new formula. I think that would be really cool. Next up we have the Crown Legacy palette. This is their newest palette. I do really like this color story. I like that it's super grungy. I like the shimmers. That being said, there are 3 darker shimmers in here, and I feel like overall there's just some other grungier fall like tone palettes that I prefer over this one. But that being said, I still do really like this. That's why it's in 6th place, because it does have really stunning shimmers, and I think overall like you can get a nice variety of looks with this palette. I mean, just look at that shine. Super, super beautiful. I do want to note that Empire is a squishy shade, but the rest of these shades are not squishy. And I do have a full dedicated video on this one with detailed swatches. And then in 5th place is the Nearly Natural palette. Love the curation of this one. So this one's a little bit different from some of their most recent palettes because they have the like ultra sparkly shades at the top, and then they have some slightly less sparkly shades down here that are a little bit more like a smoother shine. I wouldn't say that they're quite satin. They're definitely amped up more than a satin, and I really love the grungier tones in here. I love the deepening up shades. I do think that we could have probably done without both of these shades and even just completely switched out these palettes, which I can do because this palette is magnetic, so I can reach into some other Glaminatrix palettes with the smaller, I believe they're 22 millimeters or something like that, maybe a little over 22 millimeters, but this is such a beautiful neutral palette to make a perfect neutral palette for myself, and these top shimmers are just so beautiful. So I do have a dedicated video on this one where I talked about the textures and the detail swatches, so I'm just going to show you kind of what I mean between these and then these. They're just a little bit less shiny and sparkly, which I think is nice because not everyone wants like all of these kinds of shades. Sometimes you want a little bit of in between. And then in 4th place is the Grounded palette. I really like this color story. It is not only because it is fall, I just overall really love these kinds of tones, these grungy tones. I think it's really nicely curated and you have a really nice variety of shimmers. Some of the shimmers were a little squishy. I believe it was Solid and Balanced that had a little bit of squishiness to them. And then we have their very first marble shade, which is so beautiful. I think I used it in a reel, and it just mixes. It's like blue and gold mixed together. It's really interesting. I feel like it kind of flashes green as well. So then we have Solid, which is one of the ones that kind of felt a little bit squishy. I mean, these just swatch for days. And then Whole is just like a really beautiful look at that. I mean, watch out Natasha Denona, because this is next level. Next level. Oh my gosh, it is so ultra sparkly. So this one is kind of like a shade that has a base in it, and then it has slightly larger particle size on top. It almost looks glittery, but it's not glitter, and I really, really enjoy those kinds of shimmers. I definitely recommend a tacky primer. So overall, really love this color story. The shimmers are really beautiful. I also really like that some of these shimmers are just like a little bit brighter, a little bit punchier, especially because when you layer them over some of the grungier tones, it's just going to look really stunning. We are down to top 3. We have the Bonfire palette. I mean, this is just perfect for fall, obviously. Again, main reason is that I just love the overall just balance of everything in here. The deepening up shades, the mid-tone mattes, the tones. I love that there's a brighter shade, and we also have some neutrals to just really help to keep it grounded and also be able to do some more neutral looks. So I feel like you have a really nice variety. We have a red shimmer that matches that. We have an orange shimmer, green shimmer, neutral shimmer, blue shimmer. So I feel like you have a little bit of everything, and these shimmers are just so, so beautiful. Like, such a tiny amount goes such a long way. Like, look at that. I love this one. This is such a beautiful taupey, silvery, neutral, spicy neutral shade. so stunning. So I really, really like this. In terms of its similarity to the Grounded palette, I feel like they definitely both give fall vibes, but I don't really think that there's any too much similarities between them. If anything, maybe these two neutrals are a little bit similar, but not really. This one's much more cooler tone. There is no super dark deepening up shade in here. This one's almost a little bit, the shade has more of a almost slightly purple undertone to it compared to this one right here, which is very, very cool toned. And we don't have any oranges in here. We have like a bright yellow. And then Evergreen is almost a little bit more teal, while Patience is more of like a true forest green. And then really Steady and Fine would probably be the most similar. Bonfire is much more of a brighter burgundy, while Grounded is more of a muted, warmer tone, reddish leaning brown. So there's definitely differences, but slight similarities between the two palettes. I feel like the Bonfire palette to me is more of like a true fall color story that's a little bit more curated and smaller. And then in second place, we have the Barely Basic palette. This is just like a really beautiful neutral palette. The tones in here, I did talk about in my video how I felt like some of the shades could have been maybe switched out a little bit because they were a little bit similar, like these two. And then maybe this one would have left to switch out, which I can now do. Again, these are magnetic, smaller pans, so I can switch them out with some of these smaller pans from their other palettes. I just really love the way this is also laid out. We have iridescence at the top that you can layer with these, use as inner corner highlights, and then we have some more opaque shades right in the center, have a little bit more opacity to them. Love that. I love the deepening up shades, mid-tone, lighter mattes. I believe in my video on this palette, I said how this is basically my like perfect, or the closest to my perfect curated neutral palette, because it is just so easily laid out. You can do monochromatic looks, you can dip in between as well. I do also really like that there's these two cooler tones in here. So let me swatch some of these because they are so pretty. And then these, like I said, are a little bit more opaque. I'm just gonna swatch them right here. Again, love me some iridescence. And then this one just, again, goes on for days. Such a beautiful olive toned, almost very neutral metallic, so a little bit more opaque. You could probably maybe sheer it out. I'm just gonna actually pick it up a little bit and sheer it out here. So you can see you still get that kind of green base in there, but like you see the silvery reflex. It's so beautiful. So really love this palette. I feel like at this point it's pretty obvious what my #1 palette is, especially if you're really familiar with Glaminatrix releases, and that is the Timeless Tones palette. This is my top palette in the first 6 months of 2025 that I tried when I did my ranking video. I mean, I love it. It is predominantly cooler tones, and I think that's partially what I really like about it. I again love that the way this is laid out. We have some more opaque shades, we have some more sheer shades, and then we have deepening up shades, mid-tone mattes, lighter mattes. I do think, again, I would probably switch these out a little bit. I don't think we need in all three of these lighter mattes. I definitely would like to switch those out and make this like even more of a perfect palette for me. But I mean, overall, I could not put this palette down, and I still have it in my top drawer, which stay tuned because I will be doing a video on my top drawer eyeshadow palettes. So I don't know how much more I can rant about this palette, but it is just, let me just swatch some of the shimmers because, again, just so exquisite. I mean, look at that, so pretty. Then we have some more opaque again. So just like a really nice variety. You can just layer some of these as well, and they're gonna layer really nicely with the matte. So love this palette. This was definitely a very hard palette ranking video because I have really enjoyed Glaminatrix Cosmetics, especially in the past year or two. I feel like they've just really leveled up, and I've been just loving everything that they've been coming out with. And that's everything for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you were shocked by any of these, and also if you've tried Glaminatrix Cosmetics palettes, let me know what your favorite #1 palette is from them. I would love to hear that. And if you enjoy this kind of content, you love seeing swatches of super shiny sparkly eyeshadows, palette rankings, tutorials, then I will have some of my other videos up on the screen for you. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.